All right, Zach, thanks for joining me. This is the Nervous System Training Podcast, episode 18. Everyone watching, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for joining us along the journey. And thank you, Zach, for coming on. This is, usually I do this with Quentin, but he recommended you. And so this is exciting. We get a fresh face for an episode here.
I appreciate it. I'm excited. I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah, for sure. And so let's just jump right in. Like we talk about all different movement systems. Your Instagram page. First of all, what's your Instagram for everyone watching? And it'll be posted in the description everywhere
Sure.
this video is.
Yeah, Instagram is Even-Esh, Zevenesh. Should be hopefully easy to find. I think I've been on Instagram. I don't know when that came out. 2010, a long time ago.
Yeah, and I may pull it up. We may look at some of the videos as we go through the conversation. We do the screen share here, but yeah. So tell me a little bit about it. So I love the movements. I was just mentioning off the record. I'm getting into the club, the mace. A lot of, I would call them like flow instruments, flow weights.
Yeah.
I just got a rope for rope flow. I definitely want to
Me
talk
too.
about that.
I just got it yesterday.
Yeah, that's so yeah, lots to talk about, but give me the context. How did you end up training with these systems? What was your path to get here?
Sure. So interesting, a lot of the stuff that Quentin is posting, I find myself saying, oh man, I remember when that happened, or I remember seeing like Sean Shirk fighting BJ Penn and like BJ just mauling him. And, people looking at Sean Shirk like, oh, he's jacked, he's going to kill him. And so around that era was my beginnings of strength and conditioning. So unfortunately for me, when I learned training and I got into combat sports, which was wrestling, it was 1989. So this style of training that Quentin is sharing was not really readily available. I'm not sure when the Marinovich brothers started sharing that. That was, there's the two brothers. The one of them was the strength coach in the NFL team, also played in the NFL. Then they trained the one son, Todd. And so that training was like very much, first of all, there was hard to spread that information. My information came from bodybuilding books and magazines, which, as Quentin shares, it is the antithesis to being athletic. And here's what's so crazy is we think that there's all this information so readily available, which there is, to help athletes train better. But I'm still coaching athletes every day, high school athletes predominantly, and they still, in fact, more than ever, they want to train like bodybuilders, which I tell them, hey guys, that's exactly what I did. And it's exactly why I had a great physique, yet I was weak, I was slow, I would gas out, and I got also injured a lot because of the slow training, squeeze the muscle, isolate the muscle. And so when I tore my ACL around age 27, I was training in no holds barred fighting and grappling. That was kind of the early days of MMA. They weren't really calling it mixed martial arts. They were calling it no NHB, no holds barred fighting. And the place I went to also taught shoot fighting, which was an early style of combat, which I think Quentin has shared, like Boss Root and Frank Shamrock. I think it was mostly originated or definitely popularized in Japan. And so the school I went to, that was the style of combat that we trained in. And while I was training, I tore my ACL. And it really set me on this kind of obsessive path of learning how to train for combat sports. Because at the time, I could squat 495 for 5 reps. I could bench 315 for 5. I was very, quote unquote, strong. But I had torn my shoulder probably 2 years prior. My knee was a common injury. I had already had a knee surgery. And so after that ACL tear, I started researching what do the best wrestlers in the world do. And so in those late 90s, early 2000s, the most dominant wrestlers were from Russia. So I just went on, I don't even know if Google existed, Yahoo, AOL, whatever the heck I was using. I just typed in Russian wrestling workouts, Russian wrestling training, and that brought me to the conjugate method, which there was a lot of articles on Elite FTS and Westside Barbell. The conjugate method, even though it was being written about more so for a powerlifting context, what I really think the best thing about Louie Simmons was the special strengths, which was power endurance, strength endurance, speed endurance. So I started calling Louie every week and started experimenting with whatever he would talk to me about, which was always talking to him about training fighters and wrestlers. And he was training a lot of those early fighters. Ohio was a hotbed for the MMA community. And so I started segueing out of bodybuilding, trying to find this way to train combat athletes. And so it was the beginning of me, this was around '02, doing things like sled drags for time. So for example, I would train wrestlers, and I remember being on the phone with Louie, and he said, hey, I just got done training these high school wrestlers. Like, I had them bench press, and, you know, they worked up to, like, I don't know, a heavy 5, a heavy triple. Then they did pull-ups and farm walks. Then I made them do med ball slams for 5 minutes. I was like, 5 minutes? He's like, yes. It simulates the repeated power you need for a wrestling match. A high school wrestling match is 6 minutes, college is 7 minutes. But he started teaching me about special strength training, unique exercises that don't really mimic the movement, but they work the muscle more so for your sport. So there was a lot of Zercher carries, Zercher squatting, lifting from this position. I also was studying things like those old martial arts movies where you'd see the Shaolin monks doing like jumps upstairs, or you would hold their ankles walking upstairs. And so when I stopped going to the bodybuilding gym, my first gym was in my garage, where we would train a little bit with weights in the garage. Then we would go in my backyard, and I had, tree logs. They would carry them. We would climb rope, and we did a ton of body weight stuff on the grass, tumbling, partner wheelbarrow, partner piggyback rides. And I was just copying what those old martial arts movies would show with training. And so down the street was an elementary school. They had a playground, monkey bars, jumping on and off the picnic table. I had even seen a documentary on a prison in California where they removed the weights. So I saw the inmates like getting under the picnic table to bench press it. And I remember like, oh, that's light. Let's just throw the picnic table and catch it. And so I was just experimenting and kind of pulling from all these influential people and movies. And, talking about the Shaolin monks going up the stairs, the back of the school had this massive staircase, and we would hold ankles, go on the hands. We would jump up, or we would power hop, single leg hops all the way up. And when we started training like that, that was the beginning of me training wrestlers. I always tell them, I go, I didn't really know. I didn't have a system. I was just kind of putting together a lot of exercises. But what happened is the kids that were training with me, and it was predominantly wrestlers. I was writing articles for like a wrestling newspaper. We were getting a lot of wrestlers. They were killing people. And I remember like watching a kid wrestle another kid. I actually felt bad for the other kid. I remember watching him like just mauling somebody. And I said, oh my God. Like I remember the mom wasn't sure if the training was going to work. And I remember just trying to play it cool. Like, I told you this stuff works, like it was all so new to me. This is like 23 years ago. And what we were doing was the opposite of what all the others were doing. What did the other kids do? They went to the local gym, chest day, just like I did in high school. 30 sets of chest, 30 sets of legs. And I see it in the kids today. They do this bodybuilding work because they're inspired by Chris Bumstead, Sam Sulek. They're more inspired by that than somebody like myself or Quentin. Only the rare few young, training younger athletes, they're not as open-minded. Somebody who's a more mature athlete, combat, college, and older, they want to learn. But in those younger years, they're more focused on their appearance. And so what we're seeing is a lot of injuries with this high school generation. And we're also seeing athletes who look great, but they move so freaking slow. And I always tell them, I go, hey, do you know how you wrestle? The same way you lift. Slow, heavy. You lift too heavy, so everything's forced reps. And I tell them, you feel like you're working hard, but you're moving so slow, it's just not preparing you. It has zero transfer of training to you. And so it's very hard to get that younger generation to listen. But they start picking up on this when they are more mature athletes. So like college athletes, and then of course, pro athletes. You only have so much of a window of opportunity to train. And when you've trained the wrong way, you now have to spend time undoing all of that. And it's actually, the longer you've done it wrong, the longer it takes to undo the wrong effect of it.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of that, and it's the people I've talked to a lot of people now that are interested in nervous system training one way or another, and it's often older people who are starting to feel the limits of their abilities with age, and they just want to get back to where they were, or they just know that they have another level they could still achieve, but their body's not quite firing like it used to, so they're trying to get that back. Or it's younger people who've dealt with injuries and kind of have almost kind of humbled their approach just by having to do things the hard way. I'd say that's kind of how I got into all this. I tore my ACL when I was 9, had a foot surgery when I was like 13 or 14. And
Or your ACL at age 9?
Yeah, just freak skiing situation. Just wrong
They
angle,
usually
wrong time.
do surgery on the younger kids because the growth plates are not.
I had a honestly, my doctor is one of the heroes of my life, Dr. Curl. She's the Ravens doctor, but yeah, she did it. They were trying to avoid the surgery, so I went like a year just with a knee brace, but it kept buckling. They were telling me to stop sports, and I just wouldn't.
Hard to tell
Yeah,
kid to stop.
yeah. So then they're like, all right, it's probably, and she did they went around it, use a graft. So it was interesting procedure, but she pulled it off. But anyways, I kind of, I think, got into this style of training since I had a lot of physical therapy when I was growing up. And the people who really like these systems are results focused. It's either people who are competing at a high level where just they're at that last 2% where they're really trying to optimize the last details, or it's someone who's gone through something extreme, whether it's injuries or just time, spent a lot of time, and it is wants to kind of prolong that window. But yeah, I'd say the common theme is it's people who've given up the visions of being Sam Sulek, and they're ready to just focus on moving the way that their sport requires. So it's interesting to hear you say that. I like the Louie Simmons and what you're saying about power and endurance, and all this stuff. Like,
Yes.
it's both. My one friend, his mom is a psychologist, and he always has this joke, it's both, since people always kind of frame these questions just in life as if it's mutually exclusive, when so rarely it actually is. So often it's both.
Correct. I say, I live a lot in the gray, so if I it's hard for me to say, hey, Zach, what would you do with this athlete? I would say, well, it depends. Depends on a lot of things. First, I'm going to see them move through different movements. Then I want to see them compete. If I can't see it in real time, show me videos. Show me videos of when they lost. I want to see when things break down. Did they break down because they weren't strong enough? Did they break down because they lack speed? Is it a technique issue? That's something that has to be handled by the sport coach. Is it psychological? All right, now why are we struggling psychologically? Well, when you train very hard like I did, but you train the wrong way, you start to get tired. And then you're like, why am I tired? I've worked so hard. Why am I tired? And then the emotional stress makes you more tired. And I'm not against bodybuilding. In fact, a lot of young athletes need the bodybuilding methods to have body armor. So if I'm going to play football or hockey, I need to be able to withstand impact. I need that body armor to protect the body. But if you looked at like the way Louie Simmons would train powerlifters and athletes, is they would do their exercise to build the nervous system, whether it was a strength day or a dynamic effort day. Then they used special exercises to build weak areas and to build muscle. So sometimes I look at an athlete's physique, a younger athlete, and I could say, okay, I could already see what needs to be worked on. But some athletes look great, but then when I watch them perform, you're like, oh my God, horrible. And there's a saying, especially in like college football, they say that the majority of your athletes, the football players who are great at lifting, they make your lifting program, but they don't make the football program. They say a lot of times the elite football player, they have a genetic advantage. They're just extremely powerful, fast twitch. They could train any way, wrong way, right way, all machines, and still be the freaks because they're at the elite level. But when we talk about the majority of people, we need to blend all of that together. I need to do, as you guys call it, nervous system training. But even when I'm lifting heavy, I'm also training the nervous system, but you're training it in a different aspect. You're training more of like that strength, which is slower, or static strength, which is needed in sport. Then we need to do the speed and the coordination and the flexibility. And what I'm noticing is I try to look at athletes, who's winning and why are they winning. For the most part, if we focus on combat athletes, especially in wrestling, we see that the athletes are extremely fast now, very, very fast, number one. Number two, mobility and flexibility has taken a higher priority because of how wrestling has changed. They call it funk. They don't let go of things. They're constantly in a split position. So you need to have a high degree of flexibility and joint mobility. And then the ability to be strong protects the body and makes you more durable to withstand all the training you do that leads up to the competition. Some athletes show up with a greater deal of strength, and we don't need to focus on that. So we need to focus on more of like their speed. Other athletes might have a lot of speed, but when they lose, it tends to be they just got out-muscled. They'd be in a position and somebody would out-muscle them. And so what's tricky as a coach is you can't just evaluate through what they're doing in the weight room or wherever you're training them. You have to watch them in sport to really understand what they need. And this is also why the Russian model, or when it was the Soviet system, was the best, because the sport coach was also, they just called you the physical preparation coach. You always were in the same room with those athletes. So you could change things on the fly. And I remember they call him the Thinker, James the Thinker Smith. He was very much in tune with the Soviet and Russian style of training. And he said, Zach, if you ever really want to make an impact on the wrestlers or the athletes, he's like, you need to open your own wrestling club, and you have to be coaching the wrestling and, the physical preparation. And I said, well, I can't coach wrestling anymore. My right knee has been really just destroyed from bad training in my early years with overuse wrestling. And even in the combat sports, I'm a believer in changing the style of the combat sport. Meaning, I'd say this all the time, they just don't listen enough. You want to wrestle, and then you also want to compete freestyle and Greco to open up your repertoire of wrestling skills. And you also want to have a background in judo. So you have a different movement pattern and you train your body from different angles. But if you just do the same wrestling over and over, you kind of stagnate, or your progress slows, because not only does your body kind of hit a wall, mentally, you're bored. So if you're not excited to do that training, you don't absorb it as much. And today, what we're seeing in this younger generation is same sport over and over again. And what happens is we build overuse injuries, and we build a lot of weak areas. And if those weak areas don't get brought up, we can't support the sport. So the other thing is not enough time for actual physical preparation. Because if you play basketball, you're on 3 travel basketball teams. And so what happens? You're just trying to survive this workout so you could make it to the next one. So there's not enough kind of consolidated work time. And I think also we're just there's no meeting in the middle with all these coaches. So, right, I said the Soviet, you're the sport coach and you're the strength coach. You're doing it all. Well, now if I'm in college, Jacob, you're my wrestling coach. Then John Smith is my strength coach. But, then I got this other person. There's too many chefs in the kitchen and nobody's coming together and saying, hey, we're going to meet in the middle here. I'm training Quentin, and Quentin's very fast, but whenever he loses, somebody's just got such brute strength. So we need to go through a little bit of training of strength for him. There's not enough of on the same page. And what happens there is the athletes get hurt in the end. Not hurt like physically, but they can't really achieve full potential because we're dealing with too many egos. I'm the boss. We're going to do it my way. No, I'm the boss. The best way to train an athlete is what they need, not just physically, but mentally. So I'm going to say one more thing because I go on forever. When we speak about that nervous system training, it's very funny. People might think the nervous system training is only speed work. I worked with an athlete, very high level wrestler, Olympic level, amazing. And he's prepping for Olympics now, and he's not in the air. I worked with him in college. He thrived on doing a lot of plyo work for both upper and lower body, but he didn't like lifting heavy on the lower body. It didn't make him feel good. It also messed with his head when other kids that weren't as good as him were lifting heavier. So he would message me on the weekend and say, Coach, can we do, he would call it fast twitch. He'd be like, can we work some fast twitch training when we're training on Monday or whatever the day was? Yes, absolutely. So I made sure after our warm-up would often be a lot of gymnastics training. Then I would segue it into jumps and sprints or gymnastics tumbling with jumps. And if we were doing lower body work, I'd say, listen, you're going to go about 50% of what you want to, and you're going to just move the weight as fast as you can. And at that time, we didn't have all the easily obtainable technology to track their velocity. But when he would do upper body, he would go heavy. He felt good benching heavy. He felt good doing weighted pull-ups with about 80% of his body weight. That's just what made him feel good. So you have to, as a coach, you got to learn as they get more advanced, where do they thrive? What makes them feel better? And there's some programs out there that I would, like styles of training that I don't agree with. But if the athlete believes in it, you actually want to do it with them, because confidence is a transfer of training that you can't measure. But I'll tell you what, we don't want to send a combat athlete out who doesn't believe in their training.
Yeah, it's Quentin talks a lot about emotional drive, and I think that's kind of like it's along the lines of what we were talking about there, with that it's intangible confidence,
Correct.
Yeah. Interesting. I could, the human I would consider an anti-fragile system. So this is a whole tangent. There's this whole it's actually a finance concept of anti-fragility, but what an anti-fragile system is something that gains from stress, right? You wear it down and it builds back up stronger than it was. So that's different than like a robust system. So like a strong skyscraper with a good foundation, that's robust. There's an earthquake that'll still stay there. A fragile building will collapse. An anti-fragile system somehow gets better from the stress. It develops. Most anti-fragile systems are going to be biological systems, but my theory is kind of like with these anti-fragile systems, the path to growth and development is very nuanced. And so you'd see on Instagram, like, oh, here's the 30-day hack to lose 10 pounds of belly fat or whatever. And it's like, there's no one system that's going to work for everyone, for so many different reasons. So a lot of times when I'm asking Quentin, oh, what would you do in this training system? He's very specific on what's the context, who are we talking about, what's the athlete, and what's their sport, what's the demands of what they're needing to do, and what's their history, what are their movement patterns like, what are their strengths and weaknesses. So you've definitely kind of have that same nuanced approach, and it's everyone's looking for the hack that they can
What's
just the plug and
concrete
play.
answer?
Yeah. And it would be nice. I'm a trainer too. It'd be awesome if I could just have the one PDF that I take and I give to every single one of my clients, and they run the system and I supervise them and everyone gets the results. But the reality is there's a lot of factors.
Yeah, especially if somebody gets more experienced, then there's a lot more nuance. There's a lot more context. At the, like when I'm training high school athletes, there's a lot of stuff that's going to work for the majority of them. Simply building muscle for them is going to improve their performance. But that doesn't necessarily happen as they get more advanced. And you look at some of the best fighters who have won, they're all using a variety of systems. Like John Bones Jones loves to lift heavy. He loves it. It makes him feel good. It makes him feel confident. So they go down that road with him because he likes it. But at the same time, when you're coaching somebody, you also have to be able to tell the athlete, listen, I'm going to go down this road with you, but we can't drive down it all the time because it's actually going to make you lesser of what you are. But because you love it and you feel it works, we're going to do it. But I would like to add these 2 or 3 elements. And so, I'll give you an example. Right now, there's a big in sport training. There's a lot of like the talk of speed and agility. It's a very genetic word. Nobody can really explain what it is. And being at a high school, I work with athletes who go to other private coaches. And we get kids that go to these places that just do like speed and agility. They could jump hurdles and sprint fast, but they don't have body armor and they lack strength. So when they're playing a sport like football, they tend to lack the durability. They're not anti-fragile because they've only worked this kind of one area. They needed to build another area. And so there's strengths to be developed, not just physically, but mentally from doing some heavier lifting, doing some strength / bodybuilding work that is moderate rep ranges to build muscle. Because at that age and for that sport in their context, they need it. But if I'm a wrestler who has to maintain a weight class, then I often am a little bit less volume with any of that bodybuilding work because now you're building muscle. I could take you out of your weight class because you've gotten bigger. Or in season, it's really all season now, these wrestlers, they keep training. I tell them, you probably don't need to worry about gaining a whole lot of size. You wrestle so much, you're burning so many calories. If I'm trying to build muscle, get bigger, I need days off. I need more rest. I need more calories. And you guys don't really give yourselves a day off. And so I remember speaking with a Romanian weightlifting coach who's in America. And we were connected because when I was young, I told him a story about a Romanian weightlifter who made me cry. And I started describing him. And he's like, oh my God, that was my teammate from when we were in Romania as teenagers. But then during communism, they left. And he hadn't spoken to him for like 45 years. My dad was able to put them in touch. But he was talking about wrestlers having this wiry strength. And he was just talking about the way they trained was not so much like a 3 sets of 10, but it was more like do 10 sets of 2 of a power clean, do 2 reps every minute on the minute very fast. And it was that style of training that built what's called power endurance, the ability to be powerful through repeated bouts. So that's the style of training I love to implement with athletes because sports like football, lacrosse, wrestling, or even baseball, if you're a baseball pitcher, you need to be able to throw that ball hard over and over and over again. And so it's like doing one all-out power rep, and then that you're doing it again 30 or 45 seconds later. So if you train 3 sets of 10, all those reps are kind of slow and smooth. I need some of that to build muscle on you. Like Dr. Yesse's, he has the 1 set, the 1x20 program. full body work. What is that doing? It's just a general physical preparation program to build a foundation, to build a base. It's not strength, power, this, that. It's foundational because when you're weak and you're young, you need to build the base, right? Like Louie Simmons said, the bigger the base, the taller the pyramid, which is why I do a lot of sleds, carries, and a lot of medicine ball training, a lot of calisthenics, which Quentin shows them in the videos. You know, that's those photos and books and stuff are from decades ago, yet they're still ahead of what we're doing today. And really in America, this is what's interesting, Jacob. I've picked up on this. In America, our social, like Instagram and YouTube and all that, it favors entertainment and like the way something looks. Whereas in other countries, their Instagram or whatever they use, the algorithm works in favor of education. What is the person learning from this? So here, we're going to learn more from Sam Sulek and Chris Bumstead, whereas maybe somewhere else they're going to be learning from the exercise coach in front of a whiteboard breaking down the science behind it.
You and Quentin.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. The other thing that keeps coming through is creativity, and I think when you're training the nervous system, when you're really just training for performance, especially in dynamic sports like wrestling, I do jiu-jitsu, any martial art, it's you need some novelty. Like you need like your body. There's like if you go, you're in the park throwing a park bench instead of bench press. Like
those were the best days.
I had the same thing. My buddy, he did parkour, and then he had an injury doing parkour, so he kind of regressed it. But we would go on these runs where we would stop and work out and just find. But we kind of ended up with a flow, and he would pick a workout, and then we'd run for a while and find a new interesting spot. But it's you as you go, your body is like adapting. You're learning. Your nerves are firing in different pathways, different combinations of movement. So
You're becoming.
Yeah, you go into a wrestling match, like you're gonna end up in some situation you've never been in. Just that's how it happens. Even in a sport, baseball is my main sport. Even in baseball, which is much less dynamic than something like wrestling. Like every single game, there's going to be some situation that you've never encountered exactly before. That's the beauty of it.
You play in baseball when you guys were on defense? What position were you?
Mostly infield. I continued playing as an adult. I play outfield more now. I pitched when I was younger.
I've seen, you talked about being ready for novel things that happen, unknown, uncertain, right? Sports is never absolute. So I've seen infielders dive to make a play and then have to do an explosive push-up and throw from one knee. And so when you're a sports performance coach like me, you're always kind of watching, and how does this happen? So why do we do explosive push-ups? For those reasons. I saw a soccer player, somebody kind of slide tackled her. She fell down. How did she get up? Explosive push-up, ran, sprinted to the ball, broke through some people, made some contact, bumping into people. How do you get strong with bumping into people? Different kind of kettlebell carries, double rack walk, offset carries, one up, one down, only one carry, or one up, one mid. Training the body to be durable, training the mind to be able to react from bad positions, which is why I like to use some of the odd objects like sandbags, because when you're squatting down to pick it up, you're kind of leaning over. It's never perfect. And I always say in football or wrestling or jiu-jitsu, when do I lose the point? When I am put into a position I'm uncomfortable with, physically and mentally, and I kind of say, whoa, a little scared of that, and you give that up. And so sports need that. I think Quentin has shared it. There's a video that I came across it on DVD in 2009. Coach Ethan Reeves shared it with me, who was a college wrestler and a collegiate strength coach. It's on YouTube. I think it's just titled Polish Weightlifting. But these Polish weightlifters, their warm-up was what you were doing. They'd go out in the woods and kind of do this cross-country running. but they would jump over the fallen trees. They would jump up the stairs. Then there was an area with these chopped up tree logs. They would throw them. Then they did gymnastics warm up. When I saw that DVD in 2009, it transformed the warm ups I did for my athletes. But what's interesting is going back to like 1995 when I was in college, I had a gymnastics class. My gymnastics coach was an All-American wrestler, and he had us doing plyometrics of so many different types. Mr. Gonzalez, I still speak to him today. But we didn't just do clapping push-ups. We did full body plyo push-ups down the mat and then back up the mat. Power endurance, muscle ups. We would do hand walking on the parallel bars, 10 dips. Hand walk backwards, 10 leg raises. We used to do that upright on the dip bar leg raise all the time at the Underground Strength Gym. What else did he have us do? The crash mats. He would have us jump with high knees on them for 30 seconds. What happens when your legs go on the mat? You're doing a leg press. But he always said, boys, for you to do a muscle up, you have to be strong. Okay? He said the foundation of all basic gymnastics is being strong. And man, he used to crush us with calisthenics. Would be a circuit. So it would be like, okay, you're going to be on the floor. He's like, you're going to do 50 crunches here with feet on the floor. Then put your legs at 90. Then your legs straight up, 50 of everything. How do we get ready for muscle ups? I want you to do a ring pull up, but try to pull the bar to your ribs. Then we did the hand walking. One of the hardest exercises was on the pommel horse. You would hold your body up, and if this was the horse, lift your knees up, put them in front. Lift your knees up, put them back. And I was working my body through these angles that, of course, never got worked from a bodybuilding gym. And I remember being embarrassed on those plyo push-ups because we had to go down the mat, move up, come back. And I remember I was like stuck. I couldn't even move my arms. And at the end of it, he's like, okay, boys, if you were able to go down and back, pat yourself on the back. And I remember a kid next to me was like, and I was like, son of a bitch. And all I thought to myself is like, all this bodybuilding work and I can't do the plyos. And somebody said to me, they're like, when Mr. Gonzalez wrestled, they're like, somebody would have him in a single leg and he would like backflip out of it. And they said he was just such a different wrestler because of his gymnastics background. And so that, I wasn't a strength coach. It's 1995. I was still in school. But I took those lessons and implemented that into our warm-ups when I trained athletes. And I often say this, Jacob, our best training was when I didn't have a gym because I was not limited by the walls. So we would go to the playground or the park, especially in the summertime, school was out. We were doing so much movement stuff on the grass. And it was freedom. Like you said, when you're in a gym, you're thinking of all the limitations you have. And that's the truth. I can't throw the medicine ball. I don't have a brick wall. I don't know if I could jump. There's benches all in my way. Having space to move is super important. Now, I want to back up and like intercept that. The past, I'd say since the iPhone came out, athletes are weaker. And so they can't even do basic calisthenics. So before they do that, I actually have to implement that 3 sets of 10 bodybuilding work just to get some muscle on them. Because normally it would be, hey, what do you start with? Body weight, dumbbells, kettlebells. Now you can't start with body weight. They can't even do push-ups. So I have to do a whole bunch of dumbbell benching and band triceps to build that area. So it's changed the way you have to program because of technology kind of making, it's distracted people and gotten them away from the work.
Yeah. Yeah. What are the implements that you like best? I wanted to go over that. We briefly touched on the beginning, mace, club. I see some of this stuff you've mentioned. And I think we kind of have the context now where it's got to have the foundation. And then once you have the foundation, then it's about becoming powerful, becoming explosive, and having endurance, and having speed. It becomes about layering on all these things together. But yeah, well, what does your gym look like? It's what types of stuff you have in there?
My gym is like, you come in, there's a turf, about 70 feet of turf. We have 5 sleds. We do sleds every day. Forwards, backwards, sideways. We do them heavy for strength. We do them light for speed. We might do them medium, but do multiple trips in a row for more overall conditioning. Then on the other side, different kind of weights. I have ropes, rings. Think of like an old physical culture gym. I tried to model it after what a gymnastics facility would look like, or back in the day, they just called them a gymnasium. You would look at a gym, and who actually really influenced me with the setup was John Hines. He owns a place called Monkey Bar Gym, and Pat Miletich. And Pat Miletich had been, he's in Iowa, and there was a professor who was teaching all the Indian clubs. And Pat Miletich was training the early MMA guys of the UFC. But John Hines had a gym that was all kettlebells and bodyweight, Monkey Bar Gym. And there would be chains with like poles through them and walking all on your hands. And John was an early student of Rickson Gracie. So he got jiu-jitsu training with him. And I think John is a black belt in judo and jiu-jitsu. But long story short, I don't favor one thing. So we have half the gym for movement. The other half for weights and also movement. So we have like the glute ham benches that you guys have, back extension, rings, ropes. There's attachments everywhere for pull-ups. And then my 2 squat racks are attached by monkey bars. And so the monkey bars are not very big, but you go forwards, backwards, side to side, just hanging. And my first gym, though, was smaller, and there was a steel beam down the middle. I'll have to pull up the videos, but I think we called it like Planet of the Apes workout. There's videos of our kids doing like climb the rope, go across the beam, then go down the rope on the other end. Some kids were doing it with chains on. And I look back, and it's like our athletes before the iPhone became popular were a lot stronger in every manner, more powerful, more durable, everything. We've really the modern day human has been deconstructed. They're just phone and an overabundance of just baseball or an overabundance of just basketball. Even the wrestlers who used to be extremely athletic, they're not very athletic. And so when it's better weather like now, we will often go across the street and play ultimate frisbee or ultimate football because they're sprinting, jumping, cutting. We're just implementing games. But we have athletes lifting heavy. We have them lifting light. The majority of barbells we use are not a regular bar. We have thick bars. I created a thick bar with a company. We call it the Farm Bar because I was always inspired by the combat athletes who grew up on farms. So we call it the Farm Bar. We have a lot of different bars to not put your joints in the worst position, especially with the overabundance of sport overuse. And most of my dumbbells have thicker handles on them. So the grip work is consistently used. And we do kettlebells on the regular, carrying all the time and a lot of different movements. Not what you would see with a lot of these advanced kettlebell lifters, though, because that is a skill in and of itself. And so we want to use exercises that require skill and require them to learn and improve coordination, but not take so much time learning it that they're not actually training hard enough to get a result. Because the most important thing in sport is the sport itself. They have to get great at the skill and build great sport IQ. But and then we have the clubs, which we don't use it that much in the group setting. But when we're doing personal training, we use it, and I use it a lot. And I came across the clubs in the early 2000s when the website Scientific Wrestling had 2 DVDs I bought. One was on Carl Gotch, who was a catch wrestler from Japan and a pro wrestler. and he would train with all the big maces. And the other one was called Physical Culture and Indian Wrestling. And India wrestling has really climbed. They had a bronze medalist, I think, like 1 or 2 Olympics ago. But their training is they wrestle on the sand. Did you ever see before they wrestle, they have to dig the sand?
Yeah, I've seen this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then while you're not wrestling, you're climbing rope and doing Hindu squats and Hindu push-ups. Their level of fitness is so high from that. And I think today, like if you have a high school athlete do, 10 pull-ups, 10 walking lunges, 10 squat jumps, 10 push-ups, that'll be hard for them. These kids are learning at a much earlier time in their life. And also wrestling is strength. I'm just moving a human body, not a, barbell. So my gym also has a lot of heavy medicine balls from 6 pounds up to 150 pounds. So throwing, carrying, lifting and shouldering, squatting them from different positions to make you strong from what I call imperfect positions. So I really try to make the whole athlete. And really, at the end of the day, if the athlete is not good at his or her sport, then the training is, this is most important, sports skill. Yeah. And I use the training not just for the physical, but for the mental. Younger athletes really struggle with confidence. And so we're trying to really build all of that. So it's never, I'm just training strength. I'm trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It keeps coming back to this nuance. And the last question, and I do want to ask you too about entrepreneurship a little bit, since you've got the whole business side that we haven't even really cracked into. But what's your assessment protocol like when you work with a new athlete? What are the kind of the initial axes that you're looking for? What are the do you have set tests, or is it like we're saying kind of individual?
I was just speaking with a father about this today, whose son is a baseball player. And I said, we do an introduction workout and we evaluate you. And I said, but I want you to know this. We're going to evaluate every workout of every exercise because, first thing the dad said, his brother is 6'5". This son of his is going to be a freshman. He's like, he hasn't gone through puberty. So I said, that right there gives us a little note into our evaluation process. I said, the other thing we do is we listen to you. You tell us, hey, I'm watching him play baseball. His arm hurts after he's pitches 30 times. Is this a mobility issue? Is it a sport technique issue? Is it a lack of strength and power endurance that we need to work on? And then every exercise gives us feedback. But in the beginning, we start like this. We have them drag or push a sled down and back. Some kids get exhausted right out of the gate. We already know that they have a very low fitness level and they're probably not going to make it through the entire training session. They may not even make it through the movement. They do a sled down and back. Then we want to see them squat. When I watch them squat, I look at, and by the way, you can back up, Jacob. I assess them from the moment they walk into the gym. I could see posture. I could see the physique. Do they have muscle on the body? Do they lack muscle? Do they have a good posture and kind of aura about them, or are they scared? That allows me an understanding of how to communicate with them. If they're scared and they're even more nervous coming in, that will affect their energy. Just like some MMA fighters are like, I don't know what happened. My body felt heavy. That's a nervous system dump. You are so fired up for this, and you haven't been exposed to that level of competition before through your training, that it overtook everything. So I assess from the moment they walk through the door. But when they do a bodyweight squat, we demonstrate it, and I look at the feet and ankles. If many of them will, their feet and ankles will collapse inward, I know that squatting is probably not going to be a good exercise for them. And so what we will utilize for their lower body is going to be sleds, back extensions, and different lunge patterns, because lunging is going to get that knee traveling forward. It's going to get their ankle to bend more. So we do squats, then 10 lunges, 5 forward each leg. Then I say, can you do push-ups? Okay, show me 3 or 4 push-ups. Most kids don't know how to position their body, or when they're doing push-ups, if their stomach sags, we know that their trunk is weak. If their head is down and their upper back crumbles, we know that their upper back lacks strength and shoulder stability. Then we will do a recline row, like an inverted row on the rings, so we can see, does their back, shoulders, and biceps pull? Can they maintain trunk stability? And we coach them through. We say, hey, I want your body to look like a ruler, like a 2x4. Don't let anything sag. They do that. They say, now let's do that one more round. They've done it once. Show me 10 squats. Sometimes their technique improves immediately. It's not that they're all weak when they come in, but their body starts learning to move better. I say, all right, we did 10 forward lunges. Now we're going to go 10 reverse. Some of them can't coordinate that. We go to the push-ups again. Sometimes it's 3 push-ups. It's very often today that kids just do a slow eccentric push-up, which, by the way, I looked at a video from 2010 on my YouTube, and I remember kids coming in for their first time doing push-ups with 3 chains on their neck and then doing like a drop set on the last set. Today, they can't do a push-up. So I've seen the decline. After we do those basic calisthenics, they join the group and we do all of our movement prep. I want you to find that Polish weightlifting video with all the warm-ups. It's like broken down into 10 parts, I think. So it's part 1 and 2. We jog, we skip, we side shuffle. If it's not too crowded, new kids won't do this, but we have kids doing cartwheels. We might add hurdles, do jumping or obstacles to jump over. We'll walk on our hands. Today, like my coach was telling me, we did bear crawl forwards, bear crawl backwards, crab walk forwards, backwards, sideways hand walking up the push-up position. So we're looking at where the body does not maintain position, and that gives us a bird's eye view of what exercises we need to incorporate to get them moving better. If you do Polish weightlifting video, it would pull up.
Is this it?
Yeah, I love that video. Look at this.
Yeah.
Then they jump up them. That's the coach demonstrating. But these are weightlifters who move like gymnasts and are built like wrestlers. And so you have the outdoor segment here, which is tremendous. And then their next segment, they go inside. See here, they do their jump training. Mm-hmm. This to me is everything. You warm up like this, you're 90% ahead of everybody.
This is cool. This is an hour 45-minute video. There's a lot.
Correct. I saw this in 2009, Coach Reeve, and then this I love. So I have stall bars in my gym, Jacob. I showed this video to Rogue Fitness in 2010, maybe 9, and I said, can you build these for me as a squat rack? And so they built me the first stall bars that they made.
That is sweet.
Yep. So you see very unique exercises, but Eastern Europe, what they did is way better in sport preparation. People will say, oh, they've been on drugs. They trained athletes in multiple sporting movements, and they didn't let you choose your sport. They chose the sport according to your body structure and your mentality. So if you were an aggressive kid who would fight a lot, you would wrestle and box. You know what I mean? If you were tall and lanky, you would play basketball and volleyball or water polo. You were put into the sport that was best suited for you. We don't really do that in America. We overrun these kids, and we have middle school kids getting surgeries. So look how great they move. They didn't do, we use weightlifting drills to prepare an athlete for sport. But a lot of sport coaches don't understand that. They move great, deep ranges of motion. We don't see enough of that in sport today. We see a lot of half squatting, round back movements. I love the perfection here. Now, these are obviously national caliber, maybe Olympic caliber, but you know how you get there? Great coaches. In America, we're doing, and look, they use machines also. In America, we have too many egos. And so everybody wants to do it my way rather than, hey, let's be like Bruce Lee and absorb what is useful and discard what is useless. Let's, you know, a little
Yeah.
bit of bodybuilding work here for them could be a good thing. And they probably, this is one video. We don't know how often they're doing it.
Yeah, I'm a big football fan, and there's the coaching carousel in the NFL is crazy. You know, every year there's 7 or 8 coaches fired and new ones hired, and you always try to listen. The ones that I end up thinking are going to have success are the ones that are going to say, "Oh, well, we're going to see what we got. We're going to see how we can put it together, make the most out of what we've got in that locker room right there." Where those other guys come in and they say, "I've got my system. I've been developing it. Had success this location. Had success here. I'm going to go install my system at this new location." But it's the ones who are going in more open-minded, going in creatively. You know, they're trying to they're going on a run in the woods and seeing what lifts they can do along the way, rather than just running through a spreadsheet of
Yeah,
prescribed exercises.
if I was back in college or if I was brought up to, work in the NFL, I would have conversations with everybody and or survey them and ask them, hey, what training do you like? What training do you feel makes you better? What training do you feel doesn't make you feel good? Do you have a certain way of training differently in the middle and end of the season? And you're going to find some football players will say, I love lifting heavy. In fact, I had a buddy, he said they were flying home on Sunday, and the guy was like, I've always lifted on Monday after the game, and I need to get it in. And he's like, normally, Monday is more of a regenerative day. He's like, but this guy loved going heavy, and so that's what we did. This video, they also show their younger athletes in training. Look what they're doing. Throwing heavy med balls, improving flexibility, mobility, athleticism, going over and under hurdles. Kids today, Jacob, struggle with a body weight squat. And then an uneducated coach puts them right under a barbell with no lead in. That's like taking a 6-year-old skipping elementary and middle school and they go right to ninth grade. It's just not good training. And unfortunately, the people who are absorbing this information, they want to learn. The people that are training dangerously, coaching dangerously, they're like, this is stupid. I don't need to learn. And it's a shame because as a dad, not even as a coach, the kids are the ones that get hurt from that, from a coach that's lazy and has apathy. You mentioned football. There's a coach in Chicago. He was in the NFL, I think 14 years. I could be wrong. It's up there. Olin Kreutz. Olin Kreutz he grew up in Hawaii. He played for the Chicago Bears, I think, all his career. So he has a private gym. And in his gym, he has jiu-jitsu instructors, MMA, boxing, and all the football players learn. And he trains, I pretty much just linemen. So the linemen learn Muay Thai, wrestling, grappling. They learn how to use their hands. And they also do functional range conditioning to improve the mobility so that the football player can generate strength and power from full ranges of motion, not just, the most favorable ranges of motion. He shares some cool videos. Olin Kreutz, he's awesome, man. I love that guy. They do a lot of training with fat bells, heavy medicine balls, body weight, different positions for feet and ankles, like what you see Quentin doing a lot of, just a little bit of a different level because these guys are all like 300 plus pounds. So it's really cool to see what he's doing. I feel like it is the way that the linemen should be trained.
Pulling him up real quick.
Yeah, he doesn't. Usually his videos go to the stories.
Okay.
But
this is his page here.
Olin Kreutz. Yep. Let's see if there's any training video. Yeah, you can see those guys grappling, just holding position.
Yeah.
What they do is they hold position and then they teach their body how to withstand that pressure.
That's
over
cool.
time.
It's like hyper specific Overcoming isometrics for alignment. That's cool.
Then they go very heavy because if I'm 308 and I'm dealing with another 300-pound guy trying to smash me, I need to be strong AF. I need to be able to hold, push against, and be in weird positions. So you'll see like other videos, they probably do stuff with the feet and the ankles quite a lot.
Yeah.
Jumping for big guys, love it.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
Very good stuff. And why? He's open-minded.
Yeah. There
Here's
you
the
go.
function.
That's
Conditioning,
yeah.
increasing capability of the hip, because if the hip is bad, it travels to the knee and the ankle. And like right now, that's something I'm trying to work on, hip mobility, because I've had knee issues. And so that right knee, like if the knee is messed up, it goes down and or up, right? Called upstream, downstream. And so I'm really, the older you get, it is really hard to reclaim that lost movement and lost athleticism.
Have you tried the ball work, like the Marinovich ball work?
The speed ball stuff?
Yeah.
Not on the regular. I was in a hotel last week in Georgia, and they had med balls with the handles, and I was doing a lot of that, like speed work.
The Marinovich ones are actually water. They're water weights, so they're halfway full with water, so you get that feedback from the water sloshing.
Baseball has a lot of that stuff now.
Yeah, I just saw some. I just got hit with ads for a new company with that. The guy he had his arm up and he was.
I've seen. There's a place I take my son to for physical therapy, because the physical therapists are also strength coaches, so they're never just on the tip, move them out, and so they work with all baseball players and all overhead athletes, and. Mickey, I'm forgetting Mickey's last name. Mickey Brookie, I think's the last name. This place is called the Annex. I see him training pitchers, and he has those. They look like a sandbag, but they're filled with water, and it's a lot of like rotate, hold, and catch. So, what did we? You're seeing baseball pitchers. They get. I'm not sure what it's called. It's like a fracture in an area of their back, and it happens to baseball players because from age 5 up until age whatever it is, 18, 22, they're rotating one way. Yeah. And I always tell them, when we're throwing med balls, I always say, we're going to do extra reps to your non-dominant side. And because everything is high speed in the weight room, we might do stability and isometric holding. We need to fill the gap because they're doing high speed. If I keep adding more speed, it could break down the body. So I do a lot of holding and offset type training to stabilize. Because why do we see fractures? No stability and just excessive speed and getting pulled in one direction. It's only a matter of time. You keep doing the same thing until your body breaks down.
Yeah. That's where the creativity comes into play. Since
correct,
then you're doing new movements, patterns that haven't been overloaded, and that's what's going to build that balance in your alignment over time.
You got to be a thinker. You can't just be like, this is what I've always done. What does that even mean? This is what I've always done. That means nothing. Everything, when you're training an athlete or if you're just training adults, the question is, what is best for this person? Yeah. And if I don't know what is best, then it is my job to research and seek out the best and learn from others. It's not what I've always done. That's why businesses, you talk about business. If you say this is how we've always done things, oh, you're going out of business. Mm-hmm. You must evolve with the times. Oh, we only take cash. We don't take that. You have to be willing to evolve. If not, you will put yourself out of business.
Yeah, there's always going to be that one French bakery that actually is able to preserve it, but yeah, you got to do social media these days.
Until people find out about you.
Yeah, it's you gotta give into the gimmicks a little bit at least. Quick time check. We've already been going over for an hour. I wanted to talk about the entrepreneur stuff, but do you have time for that?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. Let's dive into that a little bit too, since I'm a trainer. I'm I have exercise equipment as well, so that's part of my future business plans. But Quentin recommended. He's grown his business. It's been cool to see. I originally reached out to him when yeah, his page has grown a lot. His clientele has grown
Yes.
a lot, just in the time I've known him. But he said that you were one of the people that he found good business advice from. I know you said that he told you you were the first one
Yeah.
that really kind of started guiding him. So why do you think that is? Why do you think Quentin would say that about you? And then just in general, would
Yeah.
as a business coach, both as a gym owner and then
Yeah.
also as an online
Right.
coach,
Right.
what has
I've
worked
always
for you?
done. Some people start one and then do the other and leave one. I was always marrying them. I said, I'll just take what we do in the gym and leverage it to impact more people and to do this to impact more people than just the locals. And the podcast I just did before this was with a guy named Funk Roberts, and he was in the MMA space and was sharing a ton of stuff. And him and I spoke about when we used to do like affiliate marketing. I said one time I promoted a guy's work and it was good, but I wasn't like, 10 out of 10. I was more like an 8 out of 10 believer in it. And like three or four people on my email newsletter were like, Zach, what is this? They were very unhappy with it. I told them, I was like, I lost sleep like 3 or 4 nights laying in bed, disappointed in myself. And I always kind of had these two like measuring sticks. Like number one, if I'm gonna do something, if I promote something on my YouTube or Instagram or put out work, is it something I truly do and live and believe in, or am I just doing it for more popularity, more likes and views? And I said I gotta live my truth. That's the only only way I could do it with passion. And so if I'm sharing something, it means I do it, I live it. And then the second thing was, would it make my children proud? So I have 2 kids. My daughter is my oldest child. And when she was born, I always remember saying, like, I want to be able to inspire my daughter, inspire my son, not just right now, but let's say 20, 30, 50 years from now. I want them to look back and are they going to say, my dad was a sellout? My dad was peddling fake bullshit. Or are they going to say, and people say this about me all the time, and I don't never really announce it. They're like, Zach, that's one thing about you. He's like, you never sold out. You just stayed true to who you are. So whatever I do, even if it's not the most popular, I don't do it. Like I personally don't give a shit about being ripped and having. I would be nice if I had a 6 pack, this and that. I'm focused on be strong, be functional, be useful, be powerful and tough. That's what I believe in. But you want to know what's more popular? Shirt off, 6 pack abs, and that's more popular. That's not me. I don't care about it. It doesn't inspire me, so I can't even go down that road. I think maybe what Quentin saw, he didn't tell me exactly, was maybe he just saw my consistency. You look at my videos from '06, and now it's 2025. We're still pulling sleds. We're still training hard. We're getting after it. My own training evolves. Like right now, I'm getting a little bit more back to um, moving my body. Like I love barbell lifting, but it's been beating my body up. So now I'm evolving into something else. The rope flow. I've never done ropes. I just got my rope yesterday. But you want to know why I want to do it? For my wrists, my elbows, my shoulders are feeling so tight. I spoke with Nsima Inyang. He's like, Zach, I think this is going to help your shoulders so much. And I said, man, I'm watching you train. I look at your videos. And so I just do what's in my heart. Like I just follow my heart. I know that sounds so corny, but that's what I do. And when it comes to coaching and running a brick and mortar business, also online, the brick and mortar is I care so much about the people who walk through our doors. I mean, I care about helping everybody. I'm on the phone with parents every day. I tell them, even if you can't train with us, you could call me. You have questions and you are like your son or daughter is hurt and you need my support, you can call me and I'll help you. And I put a good amount of, I don't know if the right word is pressure on our coaches, but our team is, I always say we. I don't say my gym. This is I and me. I say we. Even though I'm the guy that started it, built it, I'm part of a team. We are part of a team. I always tell them, we got to care about these kids. And you may not be a dad, but if this was your son or daughter, how would you train them? How would you communicate? How would you coach them? And so I was on the phone with a dad today. I said, listen, my son plays baseball, and that baseball team says we don't talk with parents. And I was like, dude, that's not what I do. I talk with parents all the time. First of all, you're paying me. So, number two, you give the best feedback. You're watching your kid do the sport every week. And I said, I should be here to answer your questions. So I care about other people's success. And maybe that's what Quentin saw. He saw somebody who actually trains people and is online. A lot of people online never trained anybody, or they did it so long ago, but they're all online. I like to be a blend of boots on the ground and time behind a computer. I love the blend. I started doing that in '02. I had a business mentor, Ryan Lee, and that was his it was like an idea that he proposed. He said, listen, back in the day, coaches just did one-on-one, and you'd be training somebody at 6 a.m. and 8 or 9 p.m. at night again. So he's like, why not, 4 hours of brick and mortar, 4 hours of, online to impact more people? So I just wound up blending it, and they just always kind of went together.
Super cool. That's kind of my goal. So it's cool to hear that.
Yes.
What has been the role of like what mentors guided you the most? What collaborations kind of moved things
Yeah.
along for you the most? Like, what has been the role of other people, other trainers, maybe certain athletes that you
Yep.
trained that became your biggest referral,
This
opportunities? What were some of like the things that really moved the needle for you over the last 25
fresh in
years?
my mind because it was kind of a question that I just did with Funk is my earlier influences came from books and magazines of like those golden era bodybuilders, which was the 70s. Then the silver era was the 60s and the 50s. So I love the old strength and health magazines from the 50s because it had Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding, and like hand balancing, gymnastics type stuff. So they were building athletes. They were blending everything together. And then there were guys like who I've never met and are no longer alive, guys like Dr. Ken Leisner, who would travel the country and learn from other mentors. There was a gym called Zuber's Gym. I created a YouTube series called Iron Roots, where I basically like shared these pioneers of strength, and it might be a book, a training method, or a person. But now I share their information as a way to honor them and to never be a coach who said, I love how you're saying, who shaped you? You know how many people were taught by somebody but never mention that person's name? It's to me is the complete opposite of a coach. As a coach, we shouldn't care about who gets the credit. And so it's important to me to share, hey, I was inspired to use all these thick bars and make our own equipment because I saw Dr. Ken Leisner welding equipment or Zuber's Gym making monster-sized equipment. It's important people know about them. When it came to business, without a doubt, Ryan Lee was my first mentor. He was really like the first godfather of teaching fitness coaches. Even then, they didn't really call you a strength coach. It was a new word. But personal trainers, how to make money online and also how to grow your brick and mortar business. So I learned he had a membership website. I devoured his website to really learn all that. And then there's a guy who he sold his business and he had all kinds of like membership options. His name is Dan Kennedy. I bought everything from him, whether it was his newsletters, the CD of the month, but he had these books that everybody should read. It was called No BS, and then it was like a different niche. But my two favorites was No BS Wealth Attraction. Taught me to really think differently about money. You could buy those books used on Amazon for like $3. So No BS Wealth Attraction, a very big one for me. And then No BS Time Management was very powerful for me. And he's got many others. Like there, I have a bunch of them here. No BS Ruthless Management of People and Profits. No BS Marketing to the Affluent. No BS Grassroots Marketing. He has all those. But the time management book has still like influenced me today, because if you're on your phone, you could just scroll and be like, oh damn, hours gone by. When I'm on my phone, I have these kind of two things running through my head. I have to contribute to somebody and make better. So that means I either have to post content or engage in the comment section, respond, comment on somebody else's things. And that No BS Time Management has, for a busy guy who I'm still coaching at a high school, married, kids, I don't want to say I'm never scrolling through my phone, but I know how to leverage my time, which is really what Ryan Lee taught. Like, hey, you're going to train people. Why don't you use those workouts and turn it into a training manual? Or all these YouTube videos that I share. You know, started certifications. Why did people come to the certification? They saw the YouTube videos. They're like, I had to be here. And never did I think that's what would happen. But a friend of mine, Craig Ballantyne, also a business mentor, he said, Zach, even if you had all the money in the world, you'd still be posting videos trying to help people get strong. And Ryan Lee said to me, before I opened my gym, he's like, what are you going to do? You going to go all in online, or you're going to open up a gym? I said, man, I can't figure out this online business. I said, but I could build beasts. I could build bad MFers. He's like, I think God put you on this earth to make people strong. And that was April of 2007. And then like a few months later, I went from the garage to the warehouse gym. But then you have Louie Simmons. I was on the phone with him all the time.
That's cool.
And I think he would spend time on the phone with people because they valued his information. For example, YouTube has more fitness information every 3 seconds. There's probably like 10 new videos, 100 new videos, but we're not more fit or more healthy than pre-YouTube era. Why? No skin in the game. It's free. People don't value it. When I called Louie Simmons, if there was something to buy that he had to, hey, Zach, we used double landmine on Kevin Randleman, I bought it. I bought all his VHS tapes. I bought everything, and there was nothing left to buy. I valued his time. Then Elite FTS, all the articles. I mean, I devoured that website. I always tell Dave Tate, without Elite FTS, there'd be no underground. There'd be no underground at all. Today, I don't think people like to read. They want to watch videos. And so if you guys analyze your Instagram videos, you'll notice after 5 seconds, it goes like this. Like, people can't watch. And so they swipe every 5 seconds, just like they swipe to the new program every 5 days. Mm-hmm. If they even make it 5 days. Yeah. So I've had many mentors. Alan Cosgrove is another one who just spent hours with me talking about business. And my concern today is if sometimes I share information with somebody in person, they call me this and that, but they do nothing with it because they're distracted by the 5 million other things on their phone. And I think I got lucky coming up in those early 2000s. There were no distractions for me. I mean, there certainly were, but I felt so grateful that they shared time with me that I said, man, if I don't take action with the information they shared, I'm a fraud. And I just wasted their time. I literally wasted a segment of their life, and now I don't do anything with it. And I felt like that was the ultimate like slap to their face. So I said, oh man, Alan Cosgrove was on AOL Instant Messenger with me for 4 hours. If I don't do anything with this, he'll never talk to me again. I just took it to heart. I was basically wanting to be coached.
Yeah.
A lot of mentors.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm currently working on a little side project where I'm kind of making a genealogy of the different training systems and trying to illustrate. It's like a flow chart design or like an org chart. So
It's very good because
that's why I asked that question.
we're able to carry the torch for people when they step down from coaching or they get so old that they're like, I can't even keep up with technology, and then they're done with it. Well, it's important that we keep sharing what they did, so people don't think, oh, I created all this. And that's kind of sad when I see a coach that and by the way, so I've coached many kids who are now coaches, and it's funny.
Cool.
Sometimes I'll come across their work and they never say, oh, I trained at the underground strength gym and this is where my love for it started. And I think to myself, why is it so hard to just say that was a special time in my life? And it's interesting that as a coach, you're really supposed to uphold high ethics. And if you can't do it, then it's probably going to negatively impact your coaching. So I'm a big believer in when I've learned something, I always say, hey, I learned it from John Smith, or I learned it from the Marinovich brothers, whoever it is, I share it.
Yeah. I try to do the same too, and try to leave the breadcrumbs for other people to go down the trails, the rabbit holes that I've dove down. Because there's a reason I went down that path, and so I'm sure someone else will find a similar reason.
It's like old style martial arts, where
yes, exactly.
respect.
Yeah, you've got the lineage.
Yes.
That's cool. Yeah, there's this is a cool conversation. You're doing in a lot of ways what I want to be doing. It's kind of like my own thing, helping people, but doing it on my terms, not because I don't want to do it along with other people, but just because it's the way I want to do it isn't that common, right?
Correct. Freedom. There's a lot of it's art.
Yeah.
Okay. It's your own artwork. And so there's something very empowering, like my buddy said, not just freedom to do it the way you want, he said, but freedom of thought.
Yeah.
That's what my friend said. I said, oh, that makes sense. More sense.
Yeah. There's that song "My Way" by Frank Sinatra.
Oh yeah, of course.
Sometimes when I need a little motivation to stay the course, I put that one on. But yeah, it's encouraging to have these conversations as well. Kind of
think about this, Jacob, real quick. Frank Sinatra. I'm in New Jersey. They were big Hoboken guys. I was talking about Wu-Tang before. Musicians from like 90s and prior, they had to perform. They had to go out and do stuff. You know what I mean? They couldn't just like say, hey, I'm going to put this up on YouTube. They had to like go and perform, and maybe perform in front of two people, or they would have this show ready and nobody showed up. That's a lot like coaching. You have to go and do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got to skin in the game. That's a theme that keeps coming up. Skin in the game, and I would say the signal and the noise. There's so much information out there that you kind of have to use your skin in the game to decipher the signal from the noise.
Truth. Love it.
Yeah. Well, Zach, this was really cool. This was a lot of good info. We'll include your links in the description here. I've got your Instagram, but send me anything else you want to add. We'll dump that all down there.
Go a little Google down the rabbit hole of Google.
Yeah. Is Instagram the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, Instagram real good, and then my podcast, Strong Life Podcast, and if they Google my name, they'll come across my YouTube. You know what I tell them to do on my website? Use the search button. Type in martial arts, judo, speed training, strength training, business. Type in whatever you want. My God, I've been writing for so long, they'll find whatever they want.
Awesome. Well, there you go, everyone. Thank you, Zach, for coming on. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and we will be back with more episodes down the pike.